Pride, as a concept, is something deeply present in many aspects of human life, and its consequences can be devastating, both for individuals and communities. The Bible, with its timeless wisdom, repeatedly warns us about the danger of pride, highlighting that it precedes the fall. The verse from Proverbs 16 verse 18, "Pride goes before a fall, and a haughty spirit before destruction," is a clear example of this warning. This biblical teaching not only talks about the immediate damage that pride can cause, but also about the gradual process of destruction that it triggers in the lives of those who feed it. When we delve deeper into this verse, we can reflect on the nature of pride and how it can lead us to lose focus, humility, and, most importantly, our relationship with God. Pride, in its essence, is an excessive confidence in oneself and one's own abilities, to the point of ignoring or minimizing the need for God in our lives. Pride makes us believe that we are self-sufficient, that we can walk our path without divine help. This behavior, however, leads to a fall, because we are disregarding human frailty and the limits we have. When we turn away from God, thinking we can handle every situation on our own, we lose the true guidance and protection He offers us. To illustrate the depth of this concept, we can look at fictional characters who, throughout their stories, embody the consequences of pride. A notable example of this is the character Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, a powerful and often arrogant warrior whose journey reflects the warning of Proverbs 16 verse 18 clearly and vividly. Vegeta is a complex character whose origin and character are deeply marked by pride. He is the prince of a destroyed planet, a royal line who, since his childhood, has been conditioned to believe in his superiority. This initial pride is a defense, a way of dealing with pain and loss. However, as the story unfolds, we see that his pride becomes a barrier, not just to others, but to his own growth. Vegeta constantly finds himself in a struggle to maintain his position of superiority over other characters, such as Goku, who initially appears to be much weaker. However, Vegeta's pride prevents him from seeing the value of others, especially Goku, and from learning from him. Throughout the various sagas of Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta suffers repeated defeats, and these defeats are often a consequence of his own pride. At crucial moments, he refuses to accept help or work as a team, believing that because he is the Prince of the Saiyans, he must fight alone. His arrogance and disdain for other people, including his allies, lead him to make serious mistakes, such as underestimating his enemies or hesitating at the right moment. Each of these failures, as if predestined, reflects the truth contained in Proverbs. Pride, although it can be a motivating force in some circumstances, always ends up being the precursor of a fall. Vegeta, in many moments, is like the person who, perched high on his own perception of greatness, does not realize that the abyss is approaching. His belief in his superiority is so strong that he refuses to see that there are things he cannot control, that there are forces beyond his understanding. He does not realize that true strength is not just in fighting others, but in knowing when to surrender, when to be humble, and, most importantly, when to seek help from others and from God. On his journey, Vegeta encounters several moments of temptation and frustration, but also opportunities for growth. Every defeat, every stumble, every mistake, however painful, offers you a chance to learn the lesson that pride prevents you from seeing. Without humility, there is no true strength. This process of transformation is something that also reflects a very important principle in the Christian life. When we give in to pride and turn away from humility, we create a distance between ourselves and God. This does not mean that God rejects us for our mistakes or failures, but that when we stray from His direction and give in to pride, we become more vulnerable to the falls that the Bible warns us about. The fall of Satan is another biblical example that illustrates the impact of pride. Satan himself, who was created as an angel of great power and beauty, fell due to pride. He desired to be equal to God and sought self-sufficiency, defying divine order. Pride led him to rebellion and destruction, and, like him, many throughout history have fallen for following the same path. Pride separates us from God, makes us forget our dependence on Him, and, eventually, leads us to a moral, spiritual, and, sometimes, physical downfall. The issue of pride is also one of the central themes in the New Testament. Jesus, for example, constantly taught the importance of humility. In Matthew 23 verse 12, he says, "Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted." Jesus not only spoke about the importance of humility, but he also exemplified this attitude in his own life. He, the Son of God, chose to be born in a stable, live as a simple man, and submit to the will of the Father. He did not allow himself to be consumed by pride, despite being the incarnation of divine power and authority. In his life, we see that true greatness comes from service to others, from a willingness to humble oneself, not from seeking recognition or power. Finally, Vegeta's story reminds us that transformation is possible, but that it requires humility. Although it took Vegeta a long time to learn this lesson, he finally begins to recognize that it is not his pride that makes him strong, but his ability to learn, grow, and especially work alongside others. Throughout the series, we see a more mature Vegeta, more aware of his limitations, and more willing to join others to achieve the greater good. This change reflects what happens to us when we put pride aside and seek a life of humility before God. Pride leads us to isolation and destruction, but humility connects us with God and others, allowing us to grow spiritually and live fully. As Christians, we are called to reject pride and follow the example of Christ, who, being God, chose humility to teach us true greatness. If we put pride aside and humbly seek God's direction, we will see not only our transformation, but also the positive impact we can have on the world around us. Therefore, reflecting on pride and its consequences, both in the lives of characters like Vegeta and in our Christian journey, is an opportunity to reevaluate our relationship with God and others. We must always remember that, as the Bible says, pride goes before a fall, but humility leads us to divine exaltation.